Skylar, a 71-year-old woman, had lived a happy life as a homemaker for decades. However, her world is suddenly shattered when she accidentally overhears her son and daughter-in-law's shocking betrayal and criminal plans. As Skylar sinks into confusion and despair, an unexpected ally emerges with a quick-witted response. With this unforeseen help, Skylar begins to take action to protect herself and her family.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Drama of Destiny. This story we're about to tell has a shocking twist beyond your imagination. First, let's get started.
Both your father and mother are on our side. Besides, they'll be gone soon anyway. At those words, my hands froze. Are you really going to do it? It's not like I'm doing anything. It's an accident. An accident. Thomas and his wife, Aurora, were so absorbed in their conversation that they didn't even notice I was there. Ryan's wife, Kennedy, then said to me, "Mill, please call the police right away." At her words, I hurriedly called the police. I am Skylar Smith. I turned 71 last month. I have spent 50 years as a homemaker with my husband. Thankfully, it's been a happy time. We were blessed with 2 sons. It's obvious, but I consider it a great happiness. My husband, Isaac, is the second-generation owner of a small wholesale company. He took over the company founded by my Phil 20 years ago. Thanks to loyal customers, the business has been doing well. Now, our sons are also working in their father's company, each as an executive vice president. Thomas graduated from a prestigious state university. He was always an excellent student, praised by his classmates' mothers. I was always so proud when I went to school events. He continued his diligence in college, graduating at the top of his class. Afterward, he joined the company, then headed by my Phil. He was so serious that he didn't know how to interact with women, which had me worried, but 10 years ago, he brought home Aurora, a beautiful woman a year younger than him. From what I heard, she didn't come from a very wealthy family, but she always greeted me with a smile and never failed to give me a present on my birthday. Living nearby, she often said, "Mill, I made too much food," and would bring over meals. She was a kind, clever, and thoughtful woman. Although they haven't been blessed with children, I've grown very fond of the couple. The problem is my second son. Unlike Thomas, Ryan wasn't much of a scholar. However, he was popular with the girls, and during his university days, he always had a different girl on his arm. He barely graduated, and instead of joining the family business, he rebelled and took a job at a regular company. There, he met and married Kennedy, a woman his own age. Kennedy, unlike Aurora, didn't seem very friendly and kept our interactions to a minimum. She was meticulous though, always sending us seasonal gifts and visiting during the holidays. Still, she seemed to prefer keeping distance. She didn't want to live too near our home, buying an apartment in the next town instead. Her dispassionate way of speaking never felt warm. After working for about 10 years at the other company, Ryan resigned and joined his father's company. But he's always been freewheeling there. Both Isaac and Thomas seem to have their hands full with him. Despite everything, as a parent, I still find him dear. I expect both Thomas and Ryan will continue to work hard for the company. One day, I went shopping alone. Spring was nearly here. I was looking for a suit to wear for the company's upcoming event. Although I'm a homemaker, I'm nominally on the board of directors. I rarely go to the office, but I do work from home occasionally, preparing gifts for clients and socializing with the president's wife as part of my duties. I was attending the event as one of these duties. I headed to my favorite clothing store in the department store. At that moment, I spotted a familiar figure. "Aurora?" The woman looked alike. No, but she was walking with a man. "Thomas is at work right now." I thought I must have made a mistake, but I was still intrigued by the pair. They entered a luxury brand store. I felt relieved. It must have been a case of mistaken identity after all. Aurora is supposed to be frugal. I've never seen her with brand name items before, and neither Thomas nor Ryan make more than the average executive. It's not that they couldn't afford luxury brands, but they would only shop there for special occasions at most. Thomas wouldn't say something like that, but Ryan has been complaining to him multiple times. "The pay is too low. I can't buy anything." I shouldn't have switched jobs. With children, Ryan probably has even less leeway than Thomas. Anyway, Aurora, who is also a homemaker, wouldn't be going to such an upscale brand store. I had made a bad mistake. Thinking I must be going crazy, I left the place. Then, our company held its event. This year, we also welcomed some new hires, 1 mid-career and 3 new graduates. Our company isn't that large, but we welcome about this number of new employees each year. All of them were hired locally this year, and I hoped they would stay with us for a long time as we successfully concluded the event. The problem occurred afterward. As I headed to the president's office, I found Ryan and my husband arguing. Something's not right. What the hell is Dad doing? Ryan was red-faced, confronting my husband. Thomas was flustered, trying to calm Ryan down. What's going on? I asked hurriedly. The books are off, Ryan exclaimed angrily. The books? I was completely lost. I asked for more details. Ryan insisted that something just didn't add up in the numbers. You must be embezzling. My husband also shouted angrily. Don't be stupid. This is why clueless second-generation presidents. What do you mean by that? The argument between my husband and Ryan was about to escalate. Enough already. Just then, Thomas's yelling filled the air. I'll look into the numbers myself. Both of you stop it now. Don't have these kinds of conversations at work. It'll make the other employees anxious, Thomas said to the two of them. As always, I could rely on our eldest. I was so impressed with Thomas. Both my husband and Ryan fell silent at Thomas's words. Leaving it in Thomas's hands was definitely reassuring. A few days later, Thomas reported to my husband. There was nothing suspicious in the books. There was just one incident of a duplicate payment. I've already contacted the party involved, and it will be adjusted for next month. It was probably that which made Ryan suspicious. It's good he noticed. It helped a lot. My husband was also impressed by Thomas's words. Indeed, Ryan's misunderstanding highlighted his cleverness. He's such an outstanding son. I sometimes wonder if he's really mine. With the busy season over and the recent family arguments settling down, I went out dining with my husband. It was a rare dinner date with my husband. We splurged a little and chose a course meal at the region's top luxury sushi restaurant, which has earned a Michelin star. The luxurious meal was a delight to see. Maybe it's time we start thinking about adjusting the salaries so that Thomas and Ryan can afford to bring their families to places like this, I said to my husband while enjoying our meal. Nah, Thomas maybe, but it's still too soon for Ryan. My husband laughed at that. But Ryan has 3 kids, and he's been saying that the pay is too low, I counted. If he worked as hard as Thomas, I might consider it, my husband said, laughing off my comment. Oh, come on, I replied, exasperated. After enjoying the full-course meal and feeling quite full, the waiter approached us. I'll bring the dessert last, the waiter said, took our drink orders, and then stepped out. My husband drank his tea, looking quite satisfied. Bo, there's a call. I'll be right back. Make sure you come back quickly. The dessert will be here soon. My husband checked his smartphone and stood up. Left alone in the room, I drank my tea. The atmosphere was quiet. Voices from the next room unavoidably reached my ears. Come on. The voice was even louder this time. At the same time, it sounded like a voice I had heard before. Calm down. We're just taking a look for now. It was Thomas. The voice before his must have been Aurora's. Were they also dining here today, perhaps celebrating something? Realizing they were just next door, I was delighted. When my husband returns, we should go say hello together. They'll both be surprised to see us here. I quietly waited for my husband. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I could clearly hear the familiar voices of the couple. What are you going to do about it then? I didn't think Ryan would notice. Their voices were fairly loud. Luckily, this room is second to the back. The voices of Thomas and Aurora in the farthest room should only be reaching us. It would have been disturbing if it were anyone else. I thought I should warn them to be careful. But what followed made that concern trivial. It's fine. Your father and mother are on our side. Besides, they'll be gone soon anyway. At that, my hands froze. Are you really going to do it? It's not like I'm doing anything. It's an accident. Thomas and his wife, Aurora, were so absorbed in their conversation that they didn't even notice I was there, or to be precise, that their voices could be heard in the next room. First things first, the money. We can embezzle more, right? I convinced them last time with the double payment excuse, but what do I say if Ryan catches on this time? I looked up, frozen. I didn't want to believe it. Thomas has always been so honest. But hearing this conversation turned me pale. I was sure now. The reason Ryan and his father were arguing after the company event. It was these two. These two were embezzling from the company. My hands trembling, I called my husband, but he didn't answer. Maybe he was still on the other call. Someone I could rely on. With this in mind, I dialed again. Yes? The person answered immediately. Ryan? Where are you? Come here right now. Ryan, my younger son. Ryan likely noticed that something was seriously wrong with my demeanor. He said he'd come right away and hung up. Within 5 minutes, my husband returned with Ryan and his wife, Kennedy. They had seen my husband outside, and they must have told him I had called for them. Skylar, what's up? Ryan said you called for him. Shla! I interrupted my husband, pressing my index finger to my lips. The ice cream dessert that had been served while he was on the phone had started to melt. I quietly pointed to the next room. The three of them exchanged glances. They sat down quietly, and we all focused on the voices coming from the next room. I had been listening to this terrifying conversation alone while my husband was away, and the two of them were still talking as time passed. The only interruptions were when the waiter brought in their meals. Then the conversation would resume. I felt sick from the betrayal by Thomas and what they were discussing. Aurora? Kennedy whispered quietly. As the voices from next door became audible, my husband, Ryan, and Kennedy probably realized who was next door. That's why I said daffodil. Daffodil plants. You know, like those accidents where people eat daffodil stems thinking they're chives. Aurora's voice carried through. The three of them still didn't fully grasp the content. At least, she'll be in the hospital for a while. If we're lucky, maybe even a funeral. So, make sure no one finds out about the embezzlement until then. Ryan uttered a soft huh? So, we just wait and see, right? Thomas's voice also could be heard. It was the same conversation over and over. We can't let the money trail stop, Aurora insisted, and Thomas replied. If they find out, they won't hand over the company to me. That's impossible. It won't be found out, or at least not before it's too late, right? Kennedy must have realized the conversation was serious. She quickly used her smartphone to turn on the voice recorder. My husband stayed silent, saying nothing. Ryan was trembling with anger. Before we get caught, daffodils. So that's why they were planted in the garden. Yes, exactly. I'll bring over some food as usual. They seem to like my cooking, so even if it tastes a bit off, they'll just think I made a mistake and eat it. I finally understood their plan and the true nature of their intentions. What should I make? Mashed potatoes? An omelet? They need to eat plenty. How much insurance money is involved, I wonder? Aurora's voice was filled with glee, followed by loud laughter. Knowing Dad, he's probably got a hefty policy. Finally, I'll be president. It was worth letting them control me all this time. Thomas's triumphant voice. Ryan stood up in a rage. My husband said nothing to stop him. Don't. It was Kennedy who stopped him. Why? I questioned Kennedy. She's so heartless. She hadn't formed a close relationship with us, so it probably seemed like someone else's problem to her. But Kennedy calmly said, if we barge in now, it will be exactly what they want. Mill and Phil will be manipulated by Thomas and Aurora. My husband and I fell silent. Then what should we do? They're planning to poison Mom and Dad, Ryan said. Kennedy replied, don't worry, I have the evidence. So, Mill, please call the police right away. What? I hesitated at her words. Calling the police seemed like an overreaction. This is a clear case of embezzlement, and they're planning to harm you. It's a crime. If we do nothing, the two of you will. Kennedy's words jolted me into action. That's right, if we don't act. The thought sent chills down my spine. I hurriedly called the police. Kennedy explained the situation to the restaurant staff, asking them to slow down the service to prevent Thomas and Aurora from leaving. She also apologized for the inconvenience. If it weren't for her, Ryan and my husband might have stormed into the next room, and I might have stuck, unable to do anything but let them get away with it. Soon, we heard the sound of police sirens. Kennedy went outside to guide the police. She told us to stay in the room as we wouldn't be able to remain calm, and we agreed. We heard Kennedy and the police talking. Then they entered the next room. "What is this?" We heard Aurora's voice. "Kennedy." They seemed to notice Kennedy. "Thomas, Aurora, we heard everything. I thought it was necessary, so I called the police. To avoid causing trouble for the restaurant, let's continue this conversation at the police station." Kennedy's calm voice had never sounded so reassuring. "What are you talking about? We were just having a normal conversation." "Yes, what will Mill and Phil say when they hear about this?" They seemed to think Kennedy had acted alone. They used us as an excuse, screaming and resisting. "You're calling the police because Ryan can become president, and you want to frame Thomas? Don't take it out on us," Aurora said. Hearing those words from the next room, my husband stood up. "Dad." Ryan also looked at my husband. The confrontation in the next room continued. "Let's move for now." It was Kennedy's voice. Following that, "Could you follow us, please?" the police officer asked the two of them. "Follow you? No way. I'm not going anywhere. I didn't do anything wrong," Aurora said. "Yeah, that's right. There's no need to go," Thomas's voice joined in. "All right then, we'll head to the police station and file the complaint. Shall we?" Kennedy said. She was addressing the police officers. It seemed that neither of them felt remorseful. We needed to head to the police station ourselves. I got up. But then, I stumbled. It was Ryan who supported me. "Mom, are you okay?" "Yes, I am." Though Ryan had caused us trouble in the past, he had become quite dependable. We left the room. In the hallway, Kennedy and the police were speaking facing the next room. Thomas and Aurora were probably there. "Mom, are you there?" Thomas's voice called out. He must have just realized we were present. His voice sounded panicky. "If you have any excuses, I suggest you come along. Otherwise, the police will come with arrest warrants next time," Kennedy said calmly. It seemed they finally stood up. Shocked, I had forgotten about the bill, but Kennedy had already settled it. Thus, Thomas and Aurora were taken to the police station in a police car. We followed them in our car. When we arrived at the police station, Thomas and Aurora, who had arrived earlier, were saying, "It's a misunderstanding. It's just my sister-in-law's misunderstanding," they told the police. We could hear them from outside the room. Another police officer escorted us to a different room. There, I recounted everything I had heard earlier, embezzling company funds, and preparing to serve us daffodils. As I spoke, I couldn't hold back my tears. The police officer was considerate. My husband put his arm around my shoulder. "Regarding the company's losses, please investigate thoroughly and submit a detailed report on the embezzlement and damages tomorrow." Ryan nodded to the officer's words. "I cannot forgive them for putting my in-laws in danger," Kennedy stated clearly. I was glad she was so angry on our behalf. The police officer explained to us that, since the crime hasn't been carried out, we can't arrest them for an attempt. However, after listening to the conversation Kennedy had recorded, it seemed they could be arrested for conspiracy. They had already prepared the daffodil as poison and cooked meals for us to lower our guard. Even the photos I had taken of Aurora's cooking would serve as evidence. I hadn't intended for the photos to be evidence, but they turned out to be useful. Talking to the police and hearing Kennedy's voice filled me with anger. They must be arrested and made to repent. But more than that, I felt deeply betrayed by my eldest son and his wife, whom we had cherished. They deserved to see the consequences of their actions. I felt terrible for thinking this way. As a parent, it might be wrong to think that way. But because we are their parents, we have to act this way. Ryan and Kennedy decided it was better for us not to see Thomas and Aurora. My husband, who is completely angry, doesn't want to see them at all, and he thinks that if I see their faces, I might forgive them. That's not true. I'm also very angry. But it's also true that if they apologize, I might forgive them. Leaving it to Ryan and Kennedy, we went home. The grandkids were being taken care of by Kennedy's mother, who had come to visit. She told us not to worry about anything and to rest. That was very reassuring. The next day, the police called. Thomas and Aurora denied everything. But Ryan quickly uncovered the embezzlement. Unbelievably, it started from the first year of their marriage and lasted over a span of about 10 years. Sometimes it was a few $100s a month, and other times it was larger amounts, close to $200,000. Hearing that, everything went dark before my eyes. To think I had been deceived for so long. Kennedy had been caring for me, stepping in to do chores and contact the police when I couldn't move. It seems her mother is still looking after the kids. I regret causing trouble for my grandchildren. Ryan consulted with the police and filed a lawsuit. Now, at least Thomas will be arrested. I feel a mix of relief and regret, but I'm grateful Kennedy was there to help me keep my composure. Both were arrested on other charges too. The planted daffodils and Kennedy's recorder became undeniable evidence. The two of them feigned ignorance. It seems they have no intention of repenting. Embezzlement was treated as a criminal case. Ryan sued Thomas and Aurora. It turns out Aurora was seeing another man with the stolen money. Did Thomas know about this? If he knew, he's a fool. At the trial, that man was called on as a witness. She boasted that her husband was going to be the next president, but I didn't know the money was embezzled. I had no feelings for her beyond that of a fling. I was with her because she had money. Aurora lost it at the man's words. "James, you said you wanted to marry me. Haven't I supported your business?" Aurora shouted. "What are you talking about?" Thomas also yelled. "Come on, that's just ridiculous. It's all sales talk. You get that right? It's unthinkable." The man coldly dismissed her. Serves her right. I almost burst out laughing. It seems Thomas didn't know after all. Apparently, he was told that the money was being sent to her not-so-wealthy family. Fooled by such a woman, poor guy. In the end, both were found guilty. Aurora was even dumped by her beloved man in front of everyone. Kennedy and Ryan were laughing after the trial ended. Truly, what goes around comes around. The woman I saw at the department store was probably Aurora after all. And the person next to her was likely that man. If only I had realized it then, but well, all's well that ends well. They were also charged with other crimes. With all the evidence lined up, their excuses didn't hold up at all. Naturally, they were found guilty. While they got suspended sentences for some charges, they got a jail sentence for embezzlement, so they'll be in jail for a while. Thomas tearfully apologized to me. But I no longer had any intention of forgiving him. He was fired from the company. All insurance money and such were changed to have Ryan as the beneficiary. My husband has officially declared Ryan as his successor. Jobless, Thomas divorced Aurora while in prison. It's good that he's rid of such a woman. I have no intention of dealing with Thomas anymore, but you can't sever blood ties. The police also advised us to support Thomas to prevent further crimes, but he's an adult now, and that woman is gone. I'll surely manage to live on his own without relying on his elderly parents. Trust doesn't return that easily. I probably will never be able to trust Thomas until the day I die. Afterward, Ryan firmly took over his father's role as the successor. I really owe a lot to Kennedy. Without her, this matter would not have been resolved. I went over to Kennedy's house to express my gratitude. "Grandma," my grandchildren ran towards me joyfully. Kennedy said, "Sorry for the mess," as she led me to the living room. It had been a while since I visited because of the distance. Although it had been a long time, the house was so well kept it didn't seem messy at all, and I was delighted to see a photo frame that contained a picture of my 3 grandchildren, myself, and my husband. "Kennedy, thank you for everything," I said, truly grateful for what she did. "Oh, it's nothing. I just did what anyone would," Kennedy responded nonchalantly as usual. "The truth is, I initially found it difficult to bond with you. You seem to want to keep a distance, so," I muttered quietly. "I knew that's how you felt, but it's okay," Kennedy said. "You are Ryan's parents, so I care deeply about you. If I let my emotions get involved, it might lead to unpleasant feelings. That's why I thought maintaining some distance was important to genuinely care for both of you." Her words deeply impressed me. Aurora had always been ingratiating, and I had been deceived by her affections. But I was foolish not to have recognized Kennedy's genuine care for us. "Grandma, look, a present." My youngest grandchild, Ava, said this as she handed me a card. "I made it with Mom before you came. I told her I wanted to make you a present, and she taught me how." The drawings on the card were mostly scribbles and not very well done. But I cherished that card dearly. "Oh, Ava, thank you. I'm very happy. I'll treasure this." My grandchild looked pleased at my words. "I'm glad Ryan married Kennedy. With her, Ryan and the grandchildren will be all right. Kennedy, thank you truly. Please come visit whenever you have time." My grandchild, looking curiously at me as I spoke, smiled along with me.
Thank you for watching the video until the end. If you enjoyed the story, please give it a like. If you're interested in other stories, please subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much.